So Camila Barvo is a Colombian artist and designer based in London whose practice explores femininity, identity, and cultural memory through textile processes and fiber source sculpture. Rooted in material exploration and personal memory, she uses handcraft techniques such as braiding and knotting as performative gestures of storytelling.
Thank you, Alicia, and thank you everyone for joining. I'm going to share my screen to talk about a bit of my processes and my work. So as Alicia said, I'm a Colombian artist working with textile and fiber expressions. My practice started by collecting all the hand gestures made when manipulating my personal hair. I started to question how had I lived my femininity and how was the embodiment of this word. So I started to take photographs of all the gestures the hand performed in daily life, in making a braid, making a ponytail, or untangling hair. And then eventually I started to translate these gestures into the fibers, as you can see in the video. In parallel with this idea, I've always been fascinated by entanglement and how a climbing plant or a trunk has this ability of climbing in space and taking over architecture, over a structure. So I wanted to link these two worlds of them, because then eventually hair as a filament gets entangled, grows the same as nature. And I feel it's with these two ideas that come together where my work flourishes. In the following slides, I'm going to talk through some pieces I've made in the past years. This piece called deshilado, which is the word for unraveled in Spanish, is a very special piece to me because I narrate it through embroidery and through different textures. The story of my hair. It's a cartography that traces how my hair developed throughout the years when I chemically straightened it with curl relaxers, cold straighteners. I felt at that time it was a very normal thing to do, but I started to question it as a cultural phenomenon of why do we kind of like tame the curl, and how does this goes against our identity. These were some textile gestures and processes of the piece. It was hand dyed with Colombian coffee, then hand embroidered and hand beaded to represent like all these small details in texture. Then eventually I wanted to create like a foundation video of my work where I collected all the gestures that I mentioned before. Gesture anthology kind of like collects all these acts made with hair, but then performed in wool. I chose a dark wool that kind of like got lost in the background to bring the hand to the first plane of the video and make it a lot more present, all this memory our body has. And this video eventually became the link between sculpture and moving image, where I performed as well all these gestures with combs and braiding. Materiality is a very big part of my work. The term when I used to live in Colombia, fique, which is a local plant, it was a very important and very dear material to work with. But then eventually, based in the UK, I started to expand my research to local wools. I started to work with Wellensdale wool, which is basically curly sheep, or a wool used for doll's hair, which is a material that it behaves the same as hair, and it kind of like unfolds the same movement as hair. Also, a big pillar of my work is bringing textile techniques to the fiber. So then eventually with this piece, I wanted to explore the sculptural potential and expression of a braid. I made the braid in the warp with braids and then weaved it with the weft. the same as here with the sculpture. So the main goals of my work would be creating this relationship between hair filament manipulation and textile fibers, magnify these overlooked acts we do every single day to manipulate this filament that's attached to our body, and then create like a space where all these hair stories are stored, because I think that everyone has lived an emotional story with their own hair. This was an installation I made last year where eventually what I just mentioned of making this a place that you could walk through and that it could be immersed in, came to life. It was 4 separate sculptures, each one telling a different story and a different fiber. And then I wanted this to become like a braided forest in a way, that like some kind of imaginary place that you could get lost in. This is a video that shows in detail each of the sculptures. One of them was completely knotted with the knot in repetition. Another one was braided using the braid as a medium. The other one was curled by nature, was made with well and stale wool, that it's a very curly and wild wool to resemble this wildness in growth. And then the gray one and white one was made with knots and loose Faroe Island wool to resemble this agedness in time that it's also very present in hair. But particularly, I want to talk today about Ode to the Braid, what's the piece exhibited at the John Ruskin Prize within the theme of patient in looking, truth in making. I feel this piece aligns very well with the theme, because to make a braid, you have to tap into your patience. Eventually, it's a very soft movement you do, but it creates a very strong structure. And I feel it's not only the final piece that resembles to the theme, but also the process of making it. I usually source my trunks from parks. So then I take a long walk in parks and then eventually look around fallen trunks that could potentially become sculptures. And that requires like some calmness and some patience into the making. And then I come to my studio and braided the piece, one braid at a time. This was another piece that resembled this, how nature weaves into structure. It's an inverted nest that also serves as a headpiece. And then I wanted to like erase the distance the spectator has with the piece, and invite people to explore, like to get close to it. So people started to look inside of it and smell it and touch it. And then with this piece, I felt I came a bit closer to like this forest-like feeling, and how a fiber can also resemble nature's growth and unfolding. The same with trenzado. This was made with several different fibers, tapping into the growth of a climbing plant that grows into a vertical space. So then eventually for the workshop, I feel you can engage in 2 different ways. The first one is by gesture. For this one, you would need any type of strand, thread, shoelace, any rope or wire. And I want you to think on the hand gestures you do daily to engage, handle your hair, what movements require combing your or someone else's hair, and what kind of movements do you perform while making a knot. And if you'd like to sketch, if maybe you don't have a thread or you can't find anything similar, you can sketch thinking of hair as a line that traces a pathway, how does it traces, does it trace curved, straight, or entangled lines? And if your hair could be weaved or embroidered, what lines would it trace or sketch? These are some examples of I personally engaged with the premises of the workshop, but I mean, this is completely free and you can use any source you'd like of imagination.
And having seen your work, Camilla, in person, obviously with the Ruskin exhibition, I think it's really I think something that's really stood out to me is the scale of the work, because it's so large, but yeah, it's that idea of, again, we're linking it, truth, sorry, patience in looking it, but there is just so much detail to it. The closer you look, it's made up of all these small parts and all these sort of repetitive acts, which is just quite beautiful. But they create this structure. But yeah, no, a scale is definitely one, which I'm just aware of because of the time. So we'll probably be going to go quite smaller scale. But this is a taster, isn't it, really? It's a taster today.
Exactly. This is the small bit where everything starts.
Yeah. So these are beautiful.
Well, yeah, so eventually I'll start to braid some pieces with with the other camera. I'm gonna stop
Wonderful. Thank
sharing.
you. I will just spotlight this camera as well. I just want to make sure everyone can see that. Yeah, lovely. Wonderful. And if you want me to remove that spotlight at all, Camilla, just let me know.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you. So then eventually, this is literally a knot inspired on the usual hairstyle I make every single day in my hair to kind of like tie it. But then in repetition, it does resemble a braid. I have some different range of fibers here that are the usuals I work with. I'll tell you a little bit about each one of them later. And then I've always thought it's very fascinating how a single strand of material can come into shape and start telling a story depending on how you shape it, how you knot it.
So just because I've got my little scarf here, Camilla. So
Uh-huh.
you're holding the loop, you're grabbing the loop. You've got
Yes,
only one piece of thread, haven't you? And you grab the loop like that. Okay, lovely.
exactly. Yeah, I grab the loop,
Mm,
but then you can choose how tight you like it. Like it
mm,
depends and then eventually you can even adjust the loop to kind of like make it smaller or
mm.
make it larger. I think I'm gonna make this one a bit slower.
Yeah, no, honestly, I'm just little bit slow with it. Feel like I haven't done plaiting in years and years. I haven't had the hair long enough for it, to be honest.
Or you can also use the workshop to braid. I also feel that braiding someone else's hair or another material, it's a very meditative act that slows down any fast day you've had. I find it very calming and soothing. And if eventually you are sketching, I'm going to leave this on the side. And if you're knotting, well, keep knotting. But um, eventually, for the ones who are sketching, um, I want you to think about like what your hair could trace in terms of a map or a weave, and if it's a curved pathway or if it would look like a river. And what kind of shapes would that perform?
So I have a quick question, Camilla, with in terms of your process. Does
Mhm.
drawing ever factor into your sort of process of creating these sculptures, or is it mostly just engaging with the materials first and kind of is it quite spontaneous?
Um,
I,
is there a sketching process you said?
yeah, is that like is there a stage where you might sketch out an idea, or is it actually
I
sort of
do.
this is more of a reflection?
Yeah, I do sketch sometimes. Like I may find like a trunk on the park and then eventually sketch it and think where can the braids unfold, or I just have a brief idea in my mind of like
Mm,
how it can entangle. But I do feel it depends. I do engage with the fibers a lot more than sketching.
yeah, of course, yeah. And I think what the beauty of that, isn't it, is that sometimes best laid sketches don't always, something, it's only with engaging the materials that something can come out of that unexpected, I suppose.
Totally. I don't know if anyone has any questions on the chat. Um, I'd be happy to respond to any questions.
Not yet on the chat, but if anyone does have any questions, feel free to jump in. Um, Sorry, I feel like I've got so many questions.
No, please.
Um, I can't quite get my head over the first. I'm just doing sketching, a bit of sketching just because my desk is quite small, but I can't quite get over the first braid that you did. I've never seen one like that with just the one piece of
This one?
material. That one, yeah. I mean, maybe I'm no connoisseur, but I just am so fascinated by that.
Are you sketching or are you braiding?
So I'm sketching at the moment. Yeah, I'm sketching at the moment. Just because I feel like I go into that. But yeah, no, I'm just so interested by that braid. I think it's
Well, I
so
think um it's kind of like a loop in repetition.
mm,
I've actually, I mean, I've done this loop individually with my own hair, but I've never
mm,
done it in repetition. That's what I feel the fiber allows.
we've actually have got a question that we've got a question of could you do possibly that braid a little bit slower for the participants? Because I think
Sure, sure,
people are
sure.
really interested by that one. Yeah,
We can start over and do it slower. I'm gonna.
perfect. And we've also had from Callie Holland has asked what kind of inspired your choice of materials?
Um, my choice in materials, I'm gonna, while answering that question, do the slower braid.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I feel like maybe it's hard to multitask, so I feel
No,
like
no, no, that's fine.
I've got
I feel my
my
choice in materials,
so you have a knot in here. Lovely.
uh-huh, we knot,
Perfect. Yep.
and then eventually we grab this strand,
Mm.
we flip it,
Flip it so it's like I think, yep, lovely.
and then grab the central strand,
Grab the central strand, nice, yep.
and then create the loop.
And then create the loop. Ah, I see. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah?
Yep.
Then you can adjust the tightness or make the loop a bit wider.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So then You can even, it's even easier if you grab like more material, like a bit
Mm.
longer. You flip your hand.
Round, yeah.
You kind of like pass half of the hand through the loop. Grab what's remaining on the strand
Wonderful. And then grab.
and tighten the loop. Like this remaining strand is the one who's going to help you tighten, and this hand will hold the loop in the size you want.
Yes. Okay, yeah. Wonderful. You make it look so effortless, Camilla.
I'm gonna do it again slowly. Sorry, I think I did the first one too fast, and I'm used to working this in a very fast pace.
I can imagine. Yeah,
I
no, I feel
should.
like your time, well, you'll have to like, it has to kind of be a pace because there's so much repetition in that. We've just had a few more questions as well. Um, so Juan has just commented and said, "This is brilliant. When creating a new piece, do you picture the end result from the beginning, or is it a journey that takes you to unforeseen places?"
That's a very good question. I think
Beautifully
it is
worded question, I think.
yeah. It's I think I'm always surprised by the process. I may
Mm,
have like an initial idea or an initial feeling I want the piece to convey,
mm,
but then something happens during the process that then I add something or adjust, and then eventually with the sculptures, nature is the canvas at the end of the day. Like I go to the park and I never know what I'm gonna find, and it's eventually with whatever I find that I'll work with. So it's very unpredictable sometimes.
mm. I love that. And someone, yes, so someone's just asked the question, what material are you using right now?
Right now, this is a fabric stuffed with cotton. So it's
Oh,
like a chunky fabric that
oh,
gives the volume. So then
mm.
eventually, this is the material I use for my sculptures. I stuff it with wire so
I
that
like it. So it
it
keeps the shape.
so that it keeps the shape. And then I
Mm.
embroider on top of this the braids.
Wow.
And then eventually all my strands are this material
Mm.
covered with the wool. So
I
right
see.
now,
So they're kind of ma a little bit malleable.
exactly, they're malleable. And once they're braided, they stay in shape because of the wire inside.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you for that. Yeah, so Suzanne has actually just shared, she's asked a question, which type of materials work best for that type of braiding? So I think the one that you're doing right now.
For this one, I think any kind. I think it's amazing to be surprised by how every material kind of like reveals something new of the technique.
Mm,
I wouldn't stick to one specific material because this could become like something very, I don't know, that resembles strength. But then eventually, if we do it with this fiber, it has a lot more delicacy. Um,
mm,
I feel each fiber, each knot makes the fiber speak in different ways.
yes. Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, I've used it with a scarf as well, and it has worked. So I feel like it works like big sort of strands as well, which is lovely.
I
Wonderful.
think we missed the question of the choice of materials. I forgot.
Um,
Did I answer that? I
is
don't
it
know.
what inspired your choice of materials, Callie's first one?
Oh yeah. Um, I encountered this fiber that is wool used for doll's hair, So I was fascinated by how with this material I could eventually link the knowledge in textiles, and then the fascination with hair.
Yeah, I think
And
that's
being in the UK with such a richness in wools, I thought it was the best thing to do was to work with a local material.
and has that affected, do you think that's affected the sort of structure of the kind of the
Yeah,
structure of the installations and the sculptures themselves, do you think?
yeah, I think it has
Mm,
because wool grips very well. So when you make a braid, it kind of like stays. It has a very sculptural aspect, the wool, which I've liked a lot. For example, I used to work with fique, that is this material that I'm braiding right now,
mm,
and it's a lot more stiff. Like it performs very well, and I love it because it's a plant fiber that literally looks like hair as well,
mm.
but it doesn't slide as well. Like it creates more tension. So then eventually that's
Yes.
when you discover like the potential narrative of each fiber and how they behave with different
Mm,
textures.
fascinating. Oh, thank you so much, Anne-Marie. Anne-Marie's um, just shared gorgeous work and great to hear about your journey. Sadly, could only stay for half an hour, but a big thank you. Thank you
Oh,
so much,
lovely.
Anne-Marie, for joining us. Lovely. And we've just had a question through. So are we doing a new technique? Sorry, Cammy, I think I've Oh, is it
No,
with
no,
the
no.
same, it's the
It's
same
the same
material. Oh,
one.
sorry, the same
It's
technique, but
the
with a
same
different
one,
material.
but different material. Yeah.
Ah, thank you. Yeah, I just sorry, I feel like I've been looking at the chat and I just looked up and I was like, oh, we're on.
No,
Um,
sorry.
so another question we've had is how has your move to the UK changed your process from using fique to wool? But I feel
Eh,
like you might have just answered that in the previous question. Do let me know.
yeah, but I also feel that I could add. I mean, eventually I found wool a very revealing material because it's also sheep's hair.
Hmm.
So then eventually we're talking about hair, but it's also an animal's hair. There are many types of wool. So I kind of like opened a window like in many different types of wool, different sheep, the way it's carded. So for example, fique can have many different forms in the way in its farming process. It can be very smooth if it's carded for long enough, or it can be in a very farm state when the fiber is a bit more raw. But
Hmm.
there's only one fiber, like it's the way you treat it. With wool, there's blends, there is curly wool, there's wavy wool. Like I felt I encountered a huge world that I'm still very interested in keeping exploring.
Hmm. Yeah, I feel like you've kind of opened a window into a whole new
Yeah,
sort of thing of
Pandora
materials.
box.
And I suppose, when you use site-specific materials or location sort of local materials, that's going to sort of, carry on in a way, um, which is sort of it's quite exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I also feel untangling a fiber can also be a process that requires a lot of patience. I Most of my time is untangling a very
Mm,
entangled fiber, which I always wonder like when does our body learns to untangle a fiber? Like at one point of our life, do we memorize these movements of knowing how to manage this filament.
Quite nice to capture as well the motion of your hands if anyone is sketching, and how you
Yeah,
sort of capture Camilla's hands in that way as they are sort of moving, and that sort of energy.
yeah, I wonder if anyone that shows sketching, how is it going? What results does it have?
So when did you was it something, Camilla, in terms of braiding, was it something that you grew up doing as a child, or is it something that you kind of learn a little bit more like later? I'm just sort of interested in your personal relationship with kind of braiding.
I think I did, yeah. I remember like the first time I managed to do a braid by myself, like
Mm,
as a milestone in my life. Like you kind of like learn how to do it by yourself. And
mm,
I've always felt braiding someone else's hair, it's an act of care and of love
yeah.
that can be very you can make it in a very automatic way, but then you kind of like link with that person in some way by being allowed to braid their hair.
Mm, yeah, I 100% agree. And I think, it is an act of care and an act of love. So someone's just asked, it's so relaxing to see you braid. Do you feel like it relaxes you when you braid? And what sort of emotional journey of making a piece is for you?
It relaxes me a lot. It I kind of like I get lost in braiding the pieces and then
Hmm.
eventually being such a meditative act. Um, yeah, I feel it's kind of like a calm moment for myself to braid the pieces. It definitely is. It gives me a similar feeling as embroidering. You know, when you have to embroider, you have to be in a certain state of mind to be able to thread the needle, to not pinch your finger, to to develop the stitches in a precise way. I feel that the foundation of embroidery gave me the patience to braid for hours.
Yeah, I remember, and it's also, it becomes so innate. The more that you do something, it becomes so like haptic learning. And I remember seeing it just takes me back. I remember seeing my grandma knitting, and my nan could knit while watching the telly. She didn't have to look at her knitting needles at all.
Wow.
She just could do it like really, really fast, just without looking. It's that almost that idea of, yeah, the haptic engagement where it's almost muscle memory, isn't it?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. You kind of
and
like
then it
make
can
it.
really, uh,
Oh, wow, that's beautiful. like that ability that your body has to just memorize the movements and without
Mm.
any
Do you feel
movement.
like you can, do you feel like you can do that, or do you have to be sort of um
When braiding, I think I do. When stitching, I think it's a bit harder.
yeah. Yeah, it's lovely to be able to just switch off, I think, when you're making. Wonderful.
Was there another question?
I think we just had another one through. Yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for the questions. It's been um, really thoughtful questions. So Juan had just had a question. What has been the most approachable material you have worked with and the most difficult or challenging? Fab question.
Mm, I think fique can be a challenging material because
Mm,
it kind of like has nature inside of it. Like it's a lot more stiff. It feels like really bleached hair. You know, when your hair
okay, yeah.
not maybe in the best place, um, that it's so hard to untangle. I fique feels that way, so it takes a lot more time. Wool is soft and it just braids itself so easily. So that's why I love wool as well.
Yeah, I can imagine. Wool tends to, it can be sort of so soft, can't it, almost?
Hmm. Yeah. And then you can even add layers to your knot. For example, you made a braid, you
Mm.
can finalize the braid with a knot and then eventually use that strand to make more knots on top of it. And then that will create another kind of like it's a playground where you can just with the strand kind of like work on top of that.
Wonderful. So you've incorporated the first braid that we did with the second sort of the plaiting.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
Or even knot after knot can also be another interesting sculpture because then the braid creates the knot in a lot more volume. So then even if this braid seems a bit small or a bit like easy, like I don't know, not insignificant, but a bit like something you've seen before. I also always think of like putting the object in a different context. What if this braid kind of like becomes 3 meters wide and engulfs a space? What if it becomes like different separate strands that come together and becomes like a cascade of braids? So
Mm.
sometimes a sample can seem small, but it's the repetition that will give it the real potential or the scale.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point you've said again. Obviously, I mentioned before about scale, but your particular ode to the braid, I had seen photos before the exhibition hang, but I was really surprised at the scale of it because it was so it was just kind of almost like human height. And there was
Yeah.
something about it that was yeah, it had that presence. I think it has that presence of something being alive, quite anthropomorphic. And yeah, I love that. I was expecting it to almost be huge, but the fact that it felt so personal. I don't know if you agree with that or completely
No,
disagree.
I do.
Yeah.
I agree completely. Someone at the exhibition mentioned that it felt like a body dancing,
Oh,
and
I
I
love
felt that
that.
that was a beautiful analogy because then it does have like a curved shape,
Mm.
and some kind of arms that or like trunks that go to the sides, and I like this idea of like it's a big object that you can look from the bottom to top, but it's not massive. Like it's relatable in scale. You don't feel.
Yes.
Yeah, I feel that. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because it was something I wanted to convey.
Yeah, relatable in scale is definitely that's a beautiful kind of like phrase to put alongside. We've just had a couple more questions as well. So from Maria, she shared beautiful work. How long does it take you to finish a piece, like the ones in the exhibition? Great question.
Mm, it can take me about 1 month, like a full month of um, sourcing this fiber, then embedding the wire, and then stitching the braids by hand to the yarn. And then eventually, when I have all the material, I start to entangle in the wood structure.
Mm,
So yeah, from about like 3 weeks to 4 weeks.
okay, I was expecting longer. I got surprised at that. um, mm, you must be doing it a lot faster in your studio. I'm realizing to maybe tonight.
Yeah,
Um,
sometimes, yeah, it
Wonderful. We've also had another question from Paulina. Um, it's just shared very kindly. Your work is amazing. What would be the biggest difference you see from the pieces you made years ago to the pieces you made recently?
what a good question. I feel that, for example, when I did Deshilado, the embroidered piece, I
Mm,
wanted in some way to curl the fabric, like to make it less flat and to bring the volume out of it. But then eventually embroidery wasn't enough. Like it felt too too plain. So
mm,
that's when the sculpture came along, that instead of wanting to curl a flat surface, I wanted to give volume to a fiber that hasn't become a fabric. Um, and that's I felt the sculptural potential became a lot more alive through fiber than to fabric. Um,
mm,
so I do feel there is like an evolution because it can be a very similar medium, but then
mm.
it's the materiality that kind of like makes it evolve into something new. I love the question. I want to kind of like save them all for.
Yeah, we can do that. We can do that. I've just had another one through, from Kim. Actually said, not a question, just a thank you for sharing such a beautiful process.
I
Thank you,
thank
Kim.
you for joining.
Wonderful. So for anyone who's sketching along, just to let everyone know, we've got about 10 minutes left, or it can be before Camilla if you want to at any point.
Oh, that's fun.
Quite
I'm happy.
sketchy.
I'm entertained here braiding this piece. And then eventually I've been super interested with my work to explore this like in relation to the body, like what happens if this grows like and entangles in a body and how does that behaves? Because obviously scale and space is my main interest, but then fibers and plants can grow anywhere. And then movement becomes a lot more present if this happens. Are people able to kind of like show pictures of what they've done through the chat, or it's only for
So unfortunately, we can't show pictures of what we've done, but if anyone has any pet photos or would like to take any pictures of any sketches they might have done or any braids, do just email them to inquiries. We'll be sending an email after this talk and make, which has just a little feedback form if anyone's interested, or if you're interested in any other events happening in London with the big draw. We're hoping to do more events like this. Do sort of click on the link and you can sign up to our mailing list. But yeah, so and through that, you're more than welcome to respond, share any photos you have. I'm sure Camilla, you'd love to see. We would love to see as well. And yeah, do feel free to share any. Oh, so someone's actually just asked a question, Camilla. Do you have any theme, materials, or anything to explore for the next future piece?
I do. I really want to explore braids in relation to maps and how eventually like bringing braids into embroidery techniques. How can the braid become the thread to embroider? And then eventually how could that trace a map embedded in the fabric? I feel I've always been fascinated by how maps and cartographies have the power of tracing a feeling or a memory. Like sometimes they don't usually have to trace or depict a physical space. So I would like to explore that in a following piece. But then eventually I would also love to grow in scale with my sculptures and then make it a huge braided forest that you can get lost in. But I guess that will take a bit of years.
How wonderful though would that be? Like to have something to walk through. I thought it was beautiful seeing the multiple pieces together and that idea of walking through.
Yeah, because you at the exhibition it was only one. You saw only one, right?
Yes, yeah. So the original, I didn't realize the original has about three or four.
Yeah, it was for
Wonderful.
a collection of 4 sculptures. I don't know if anyone would like me to repeat. I'm gonna repeat this one in case anyone would like to. What I also love of this technique is that it's super like
That's fascinating. It's almost like a spring. Yeah, it's got a sort of a spring, doesn't it? A bit of tension to it. I love that.
Yeah. So it's also very delicate. Like it's not held by anything else than just the loop.
Just the tension, yeah, just the loop. Just a quick comment from Alberto that I didn't say earlier. It's just to say he shared a message. Congratulations for finding such an expressive and poetic language for your artworks. This is the act of authenticity and will send a powerful message to society and contemporary artists.
Oh, wow,
Which
that's
I thought was
beautiful.
a beautiful message. So thank you,
Thank
Alberto.
you. That's so nice to hear.
Couldn't not share that. I'll make sure to save some of these wonderful questions as well. I love how it can be twisted and sort of, yeah,
Yeah,
it's almost there's an element of almost it's skill of craft, but almost an element of play there as well, which I really enjoy.
yeah, totally. It's very malleable, which I love.
Yes, yeah, great word.
Yeah. Oh, I saw there was a comment as well.
Yes, so Callie sent a comment. So not a question, but I'm documenting my notes from artist talks for my university degree work and wanted to thank you for your honesty about your practice. It's very helpful and inspiring.
Thank
She
you,
said,
Kali. I'm glad you enjoyed.
it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Excellent. I think we might have had the nicest questions for this talk and make, I have to say. So everyone's been absolute stars.
Yeah, totally. And then eventually, um, fibers could be joined together. This was two braids I made with a fishtail. You know that
Oh
there's,
yes, a fishtail braid. Yeah, I remember
yeah,
those.
yeah, that you kind of like divide the hair in four pieces. And then it's a knot, can be done
Mm,
in anything you want.
wonderful. So I think this is absolutely, I feel like this is raced by. Absolutely raced by. We're sort of just as we sort of slowly come into the end. Someone else has shared, your process is very manual, tactile, and beautiful. How have your hands changed, if so, after all these years exploring and transforming materials? An interesting one.
Oh, wow, yeah. How have my hands changed? I don't know. I feel I mean, I dye a lot, and when
Mm,
I dye, they kind of like reduce the skin registers color a lot.
yes.
Um, so I guess that will reveal some change with time.
Yes,
Yeah,
100%. Yeah, yeah, that sort of that the sort of harsh chemicals. Do you find the wool is a bit kinder to your hands, maybe as a
yeah,
material?
yeah, yeah. It is kinder, but I also dye with natural dyes, so
Oh,
then
okay.
it's a bit less abrasive.
Yes, yeah, yeah, definitely.
Um, that's a really good question. I don't think I have the answer right now, but I'll definitely have an answer maybe in a few years.
Well, I feel like we'll have this recording and this will be on YouTube. So, I feel like documentation of your hands will be needed to see the effects.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
Maybe like in 10 years by, I do another video and then we'll see a change in my hands from the first.
100%, 100%. And Carla, thank you so much. Carla's just shared, truly inspirational. Thank you for so generously sharing your processes. Such a grounding and inquisitive practice.
Thank you.
Is a lovely phrase, inquisitive. And it does feel that way, 100%. I'd second that.
Inquisitive.
I feel like it causes so many questions for the viewer as well. I think I remember seeing your piece in the shortlist and just immediately being like completely drawn to it and having so many questions. So this has been great for me as well to get some of my questions answered as well.
That's great.
Wonderful. So it has raced by. Um, we are actually just over time now. I feel like that has, yeah, really whizzed. So thank you so much, Camilla. That was so just, yeah, really inspiring. And it was just really insightful to see all of these techniques. And it really just, I think it really adds another, uh, really highlights the layer of complexity in your work as well. And so, yeah, very beautiful. And thank you to everyone, all, oh, but thank you to everyone for all of your really thoughtful questions. I think they really help to add. Oh, sorry, I'm just trying to get them up. I think they just, yeah, they were so thoughtful, and I think they really helped to delve deep into these sort of your practice and bring something new out. So that was really wonderful. Camilla, would you like to add anything?
No, I wanted to thank everyone for joining and for engaging with the questions. I hope maybe this hour brought you some patience or some calmness to your day. And then, no, I enjoyed it very much. Thank you, Alicia, for